Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides with the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
In a world of cartoon voices, animated, really annoying, etc.
Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill,
shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness.
Praise truly his brother's keeper,
and the finder of lost children.
And I will strike down
upon those with grave vengeance and with furious anger,
those who attempt poison and destroy my brothers.
You will know my name is the Lord.
You could call me Jesus, you could call me Christ, you could call me the Lord.
When I lay my vengeance upon thee.
My sweet, sweet, sexy vengeance.
You gotta watch this. What's the name of it?
You need to have some on my flavin.
Oh, I think I'll have some more martini.
Take two.
I know that voice.
I know that voice.
I know that voice.
I know that voice.
Oh, I know that voice. And I know that voice.
I know that voice.
I know that voice.
I know that voice.
From beautiful downtown Burbank, I know that voice.
We've scaled the heights of adequacy.
You think us landed?
You and your tower can go to hell.
Nice.
Try again.
Real.
That was good.
Rolling scene 12X.
12X, action.
What about that non-hovering hover car? Is that making the music?
Maybe just a little slower for clarity.
What about that non-hovering hover car? Is that making the music?
Good. Well, that's good.
Everybody always asks me questions about what this job is like. Why not ask all of my peers, find out what they think, so that we can show you, everything you always wanted to know about voice acting, but we're afraid to ask.
You go to a dinner party and say, what do you do? I said, I'm a voice actor. Okay. Hey, they have dip.
Just friends trying to explain, what exactly do you do? What do you mean you're a voice actor? What does that mean? Well, I go into a room and they give me a script, and when you hear that, in a world, one man, that's me. You're the one man? No, I'm not the one man. I'm the guy that says one man. Well, wait a second. Well, that's just that voice. Yeah, but does he ever stop to think that there's actually a guy in a room reading that?
We've brought people in for tours and to visit and stuff like that, and you really see that it's just, I had no idea this is how you did this.
It's
I don't know what they
such an
thought,
intricate process
but
that I would say that if people had any idea how much work really went into animation, they would look at it with a lot more sort of a sense of awe.
If you think about it, way back thousands of years ago, and the Chinese had silks that they put these rod puppets in front of, and they would project these big images on the silks, and these people would come by the hundreds and watch these shows that would last for days.
I think probably the tradition would have come out of puppet shows.
God bless America, land that I love.
Small voices for small characters.
Character voices come from British music hall and vaudeville.
Silent movies, the shorts that they did, that Laurel and Hardy did, and Keaton did, and Chaplin did, those broad, wacky, wonderful things. Later, when sound movies came along, they died out. What replaced them? Cartoons.
Animated cartoons, did start in the days of silent motion pictures, and they'd have little bubble captions with the dialogue in them. So when you'd be watching the films, that's how they spoke to you, was through the dialogue. And in the late 20s is really after The Jazz Singer was released, which was the first talking motion picture Warner Brothers produced. Animation then started to move towards that, trying to get into sound. Back in the early 20s, 1924, Max Fleischer actually produced the first cartoon series with a soundtrack.
This microphone changes the sound waves into electrical vibrations, which are amplified here and sent along these wires to the mixer room.
The very first talking cartoon was 1928, was Paul Terry's Dinner Time, and he preceded Walt Disney's Steamboat Willie by a month.
What happened was Walt heard about it, the Jazz Singer came out, so their sound. Walt said, we can take this technology and make a sound movie. So they did. Mickey didn't really have a voice in that early movie. He just whistled, and the rest of it was sound effects and music effects. But soon he could talk. And then when he decided to do features, and the first feature, Snow White, was called Disney's Folly, nobody thought it would succeed. But when he started doing features, and even before that, when he was casting voices for the short films, they were using radio talent. Those are the great voices.
When I was a kid, there was no TV now, remember, no cell phones, no nothing, except radio.
You know, you'd sit and you'd look at the radio. Everybody would sit around and look at the radio, even there was nothing to see there.
Radio not only prepped me, it prepped everyone else in early cartoons, because they were all from radio. The first session I went on with the Jetsons, I was terrified because, you know, I thought, oh, it's cartoons. I've never done cartoons. I walked into the room and all of my radio friends were there.
Radio is very much like an animation session. You just borrow from whatever experience you've had as a radio actor or an animation person. It all seems to work out.
Back in the days of old-time radio, as they call it now, that was essentially voice acting. Strangely enough, when you do a cartoon and they edit it all together and get it ready for the animators to animate, they call it the radio show.
My first real gig was being dropped on my head in a church, which rendered my relationship to the deity problematic.
The first one I ever did where I went, wow, these people are reacting like as if I was a baby speaking my first words. It was Peter Falk, was Columbo. I'd seen Columbo the night before. And my teacher, Mr. Fraser, was doing it in the schoolyard for a bunch of my schoolmates. And I don't know how I did it, but I just went up to him and said,
Mr. Fraser, sir, I'm sorry to bother you. This is very embarrassing. You're murdering a Peter Falk impression.
And I went and everything, and I discovered I could do something well.
I remember I was 10 years old, and there was this woman, Phyllis, who was running the front desk at Lee Strasberg. And she was so funny with me. I'd be at the 7-Eleven across the street, and she'd, you know, run across and say, Alana, I know you across the street smoking marijuana with the homeless. You get your ass over here right now, and you learn how to act. And then the phone would ring. She'd say, Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, may I help you, please? I never forgot that.
My parents are from Buenos Aires, Argentina, so entonces yo puedo pronunciar algunas palabras so I can hear it. And then my best friend's parents were from Glasgow, Scotland, so if I wasn't listening to Carlitos, no me digas, I was listening to Carlos and Kevin, get outside for Pete's sake. So right there, I had an early influence of wanting to imitate people's.
I always was doing voices from the time I was really small. My mom did cartoon voices at me, like, you know, just...
She would talk like a little baby. What are you doing over there?
And so then I would talk back to her, and people would say, she's never going to learn to talk normally if you keep doing that.
I knew about voiceovers when I was little. I did, like, you know, Burger King commercials and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until later that I discovered that I could marry the two with, you know, acting and voiceovers, animation.
If you want to do animation, you have to be in LA. This is the animation capital of the world. This is in every single biography you ever hear. Broke, lonely, and no future in sight. Fame was right around the corner. And then they go to commercial. Then we come back, and they're famous. Wait a minute. I want to know what they did those mornings when they couldn't get out of bed. What did you do then? What did you do then? I keep having this recurring dream, same thing, that I'm walking down the street, it says fame, and as I get closer to the street, this keeps getting longer and longer and further away from me.
Just know that it's a profession. It needs to be taken seriously. You gotta, have fun and never grow up. But at the same time, you gotta really be where the major markets are, and you need to have access to the material. And there's no right or wrong way to do that. It's your own journey. You can't use someone else's journey. It's your own thing.
I slept my way to the top. You know, it's rampant in this business, you know.
Before you move to the big market, I think it's wise to build up two things. You need to build up your well-deserved confidence by doing professional live performing of whatever kind you want. The other thing that you've got to have is you also have to earn your armor. You have to have a degree of armor to deal with all of the rejection that you're going to get as an actor.
It's a huge commitment to pursue anything in the arts. First thing I tell people is, because everyone will say, you know, I think I can make some money at this. Never do anything in this business for money. You got to do it because you get a high at the microphone. I took voiceover classes. My animation guru, I mean, off and on for 10 years, was Dawes Butler. The revolving door of talent in Dawes' class, Nancy Cartwright, Corey Burton, Greg Burson, Mona Marshall.
Dawes, I mean, he was brilliant. When you look at a piece of copy, he was talking commercial copy, of course, you have to really, even if it's a line or two, you have to be able to pick it up and see, what is this character? Who is she? What's the frame of reference? Okay, look at that piece of copy. Who's that speaking? So perhaps if she's a woman of elegance, you know, you might have some of that oral happening there. And if, you know, she's really tiny-assed, you might have a little bit more of a oral nasal. And then, you know, combination of adenoidal then gets you into being, you know, maybe somebody who's kind of shy.
Project Bad Tidings.
Obviously, it's the first step to a successful career in voiceover is you go right to the steel mill. You know, as soon as you're 18, you get a job on a blast furnace, which I did. And then I went to New Orleans and took the precaution of becoming a deckhand on a riverboat, which is another, I mean, cliche, you know, it's how you prepare. And sell encyclopedias and do Mardi Gras floats and what else? Sing a rock and roll band, and it's all the stuff that used to get me kicked out of class, and it's great.
One of the first things that I did was Back to the Future, the animated series. I'm pretty sure that I got that part because I was the only kid at 9 that could say, I'm computing the logarithmic equivalence of the atomic weights of certain isotopes found in the lanthanide series of rare earth elements.
So I kept it around, never letting it out of my sight. Where is it, damn it? Quit goofing off! You may be asleep, but you're not on break!
One of my friends was listening to WBCN FM, and they did a lot of wacky things. They were having a contest to who could sound like Mel Blanc. So I kind of sheepishly called, and you go, "Hello, BCN, you sound like Mel Blanc." And I didn't know what to do. I was put right on the spot. And I was like, click. And I said, I'm going to call him back. And so I get him on the phone. I got busy, and then I was like even getting angrier, and I just let him have it once. He said, "Hello, you sound like Mel Blanc." And I was like, what do you think, idiot? You know, and of course I do, Doc. You know, and you're despicable if you don't put me on the air. You know, just all junk like that. And he went, hold on. Next thing you know, I was on the radio.
They called me and said, we would like you to play SpongeBob SquarePants' grandma. Well, I thought that was a good idea. I had no idea how important that was. It turns out to be one of my best credits. You know, you can mention all these things, nothing happens. And so I mentioned that I'm SpongeBob SquarePants' grandma. All excited little children are showing me their underwear.
You know, as with many people, it was just so many dominoes had to fall, you know, and you have to find a way in somehow in some weird niche. Walla is the voiceover equivalent of being an extra, essentially. So they have 4 people, generally. They'll have 2 men and 2 women, and they'll come in and they'll do, you know, this background kind of thing. You know, it's usually kind of a conversation, really kind of chick of those. So I did that. That was my very first animation gig.
Actually got into animation by being a designer. And one day I happened to go to the recording session. And in about 2 seconds I went, oh, no, this is the job. This is the job you want.
Hi, I'm Ed Asner. I love to act. I don't care what form it takes, be it improv, voiceover, narration, anything that requires my pretending to be someone else, I leap at.
To be a good voice actor, you have to be an actor. That's all. I think you're born with that talent. You can't teach anybody to act. You can teach them techniques of getting closer or whispering, but it comes from the heart.
The good voice actors are so good, the cartoons don't even have to be that good. I gotta tell you, that's the sad truth.
When you get started, when you really start listening to what people are actually doing. A lot of actors get into it and they don't know how to act for voiceover. It's a very different style of acting. It's much bigger, it's much more theatrical.
It is not about, I can say, what's up, Doc, better than anybody else. You know, no, it's can you read anything as that character? Can you become that character? It's about hearing all those little voices in your head beforehand. When you look at a script and you have to give an A, a B, and a C take, when you look at a script, you have to give an A, a B, and a C take. When you look at a script, you have to give an A, a B, and a C take. All of them have to be different.
Voiceover is about creating characters who may be funny, or may be dramatic, or may be scary, or whatever. It's the same as acting, it's just you don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is why I'm interested.
Even before I knew it was Mel Blanc, I would have told you it was Bugs Bunny was my hero, and Daffy Duck, and Foghorn Leghorn. I really loved Foghorn Leghorn.
I didn't know who I was listening to back then, except for guys like Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc, of course, is the name you have to kind of throw out first because he lit the way for just about everybody else.
I remember what really astonished me was that Mel Blanc did everything. That's what I thought was pretty magical, was that the Roadrunner and Tweety, Wile E. Coyote and Bugs and Daffy and Elmer Fudd.
You break down the voice. It's New Yorkie, it's nasally, and he's a smart aleck. That could be such an unappealing voice, and yet endearing, timelessly endearing.
Well, they told me that he was a tough little stinker, so I thought maybe Brooklyn or the Bronx.
So I put the two of them together, Doc. That's how I got the voice for Bugs.
In the episode Wabbit Season, Duck Season, that episode of Bugs Bunny where they're sort of arguing as to which season it is and who Elmer should shoot, Bugs comes out dressed as Daffy, and Bugs does a Daffy impression, and then Daffy comes out dressed as Bugs and does a Bugs impression. And they're different voices. One sounds like Bugs trying to be Daffy, and the other sounds like Daffy trying to be Bugs. And it's unbelievably impossibly hard to do.
Basically, it was Bugs Bunny stepping in to do an imitation of Daffy Duck. It wasn't Mel Blanc doing Bugs and then Daffy. In fact, I remember Lou Costello writing on a picture, says, to my favorite actor. So Mel actually was a great actor, and that's why he was so good in all the characters. He was a method actor. He became the characters.
I was going to a recording session, and we're waiting for Mel, and he's usually right on time. And I turned on the radio. They said Mel Blanc, the famous voice, had a terrible auto accident.
He was in a coma for about 14 days. And the doctor got an idea, and he went over to Mel and clapped his hands and said, "Mel, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mel?" And Bugs Bunny was on the air. And he didn't do anything, and so the doctor thought, Bugs. So he said, "Bugs, can you hear me?" And Mel goes, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?" He says, "Porky, can you hear me?" I can hear it. So he came out of the coma doing the voices. The characters saved Mel's life.
He was in the hospital and everything, and so they wanted me to take his place at Warner Brothers Cartoons, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. Wait till Mel comes back.
He broke practically every bone in his body. And so he would record at his home, and I would go to his home in Pacific Palisades, and we'd record there.
June Foray is Rocky the Flying Squirrel, Rocket J. Squirrel from Bullwinkle and Rocky.
Hokey Smoke, they remember Rocky the Flying Squirrel.
She's Natasha Fatale.
Of course, Natasha Dudley.
When you trace her back, she was on, like, back in the 40s.
She's 90 plus years old now, and still working, and still working.
So I started with Granny. Oh, it was like 1956. That I started with Granny, and I'm still doing it.
Approaching a legacy voice, it can depend. It'll depend on who's running the show.
Kind of have to have an ear for, do they sound the same? Is it the same? Is it on the same timbre? But then from there, can they actually deliver the performance? There's much more to a character than just the voice.
Yeah, what's up, Doc?
Or you all know Goofy. Marvin the Martian from the Looney Tunes show. Isn't that lovely?
How dare you?
I used to do it like a Winnie the Pooh for my kids. Oh, what's a smackerel of honey? And then Jim Cummings walks in, you're like,
That's really good.
Job one, you got to sound like the guy. You got to do that right away. And then you dive in and you get all the aspects of the personality. And but the first thing is you have to go, oh, that's Pooh Bear, or that's Tigger.
He pouches, he pouches,
All of this not kicking the ball has made me quite tired.
Count out the sounds. Eba, bi, boy. Okay? So it's 4 sounds in the word. Chair. Desk. Now, you wrinkle your nose, you make it kind of nasal, and it's eba, boy. And then for the third sound, you push it more. Eba, boy. It's a chair. It's a desk. And then you have to put together full sentences. The boy sat in the chair next to the desk. And nobody can do that, and that's when I have job security.
When I got the gig as Fred Flintstone, I was the least likely guy to get it. 5'4", 115 pounds, soaking wet. Hi, I'm here to do Fred Flintstone. They literally looked over me. And Henry Corden, who was the voice of Fred Flintstone, he took over after Alan Reed passed away, was there. And he yelled to the director, would you stop looking at him and just listen?
And Henry Corden's, Fred Flintstone was more nasal. To the moon, Alice. It was more Jackie Gleason. Alan Reed was more, Wilma, Bonnie. It was smoother. No, brother. I tried to kind of combine them both, and there you get Fred Flintstone.
Every single actor that's worked for me playing the Joker, and there have been many, brings their own twist to it. And that's what you want. If you want somebody to just do Mark Hamill, then you bring Mark Hamill in.
Everybody sort of knows the Joker here, when he's up and exuberant. You can't do it quietly. Look here, here's how he laughs. You have to really let it rip. I always approached each script like it was like the first time I'd ever done it. I mean, I didn't think there had to be continuity, that he had to be exactly the same Joker. Because I figured he has multiple personalities anyway. There'd be the traditional where he's wildly exuberant and gleeful and maniacal, and there'd be others where sort of much more sinister and menacing. I really love all the other Jokers, except for Kevin Michael Richardson.
I was feeling a bit screw loose, so I checked myself in.
You know why I'm kidding? Because I love Kevin Michael Richardson so much. He's a wonderful actor, but I'm just jealous because he got an Emmy nomination and I never did.
I gotta give Mark props. I don't want him coming after me and go, did you really say that? Because I don't think it's funny. I was the best Joker, not you. No. Mark never said that.
Mark's Joker is broad and terrifying at the same time. Everybody who's ever played the Joker since really is trying to come up to that benchmark. And everybody brings their own twist to it and has their different thing. The trick is for people not to do an impression of Mark. So, John DiMaggio did a stunning version in Under the Red Hood that was completely different and terrifying in its own right.
It was just a very dark place, just allowing yourself to go to that really, really awful place in your mind. And everybody has one. I tapped into it for that, vocally, and tried to make him as evil as possible, and it worked.
Does anybody realize how brilliant these voiceover actors are, let's just call them actors? Because they have to get every cryptic expression that you would do on camera on mic. They're storytellers. That's their gift. And man, nobody gets it unless you're sitting in my seat.
Actors going to go, it's so easy. It's like, yeah, it's easy for you because all you got to do is read out loud in your own voice. There is a misconception, I think, that voice acting is just reading aloud. And it's not. At the end of the day, it's 2 different job descriptions. Their job is to be movie stars or TV stars and sound as much like themselves as possible. And our job is to be voice actors and character actors and sound as little like ourselves or as little like the last thing you did an hour ago as possible.
People find out what I do and they're like, why? I can do Donald Duck. Do you want me to do it for you? I'm like, please don't. It's my dentist. Or, it's the guy at the bank. And he's like, I can do the greatest Donald Duck. And I'm like, I will give you $5 if you do not do that. And I don't want to be mean, but the soul of this business is acting. And the voice, the funny voice that they put on, if that's what you want to call it, is secondary to the heart of the character that they develop.
You always hear people like, hey,
My friends say I do great voices. But they're not actors. They don't think like, well, you guys just go in there and like make a crazy voice and then you get lots of money. Like, no, we have to act and then we get lots of money. And make a crazy voice. But there's got to have stuff behind it.
So it's not about, you know, I can do Christopher Walken, I can do Johnny Depp, I can do, well, Michael J. Fox, I can do whoever. That's great. Can you do anything as them? And can you stay in that voice for 4 hours? Can you scream in that voice for 4 hours? Can you get electrocuted as Michael J. Fox? You know, can you get punched in the stomach as Michael J. Fox? If you can, great. And can you do it without going, hang on, wait a second, just right then?
Whenever I get an audition for a new character, I'll look at the drawing of the character. If they have a show Bible, I'll read the show Bible so it says, you know, what city they're in, what time it is. Maybe it's a different planet. And all those factors come into play. I don't necessarily go into a role thinking cartoon. I think, how would this being sound?
It starts from the moment you go into audition, when you look at the drawing, when you see the script, and then you look at the character and you see if it's a little girl, how old is she? You know, is she 5 years old? Is she really tiny? Because then the equipment's gonna be little, itty bitty, right? But if she's 8, her voice box is bigger. She knows more. She's a little more confident in the world.
For me, it really starts with the artwork. I like to see a picture. I like to see, you know, how tall, how short, how heavy, how light.
You know, it's gonna be Skeeter, you know, my skinny, ain't got no teeth, so he's got a little bit of a whistle, and that's when he talks.
Like with Tommy, like he's got these funny lips, right? He's got this big kind of slurry sort of thing, you know, he's got this thing. So when I first saw him, to me, there was some kind of speech thing. I'm not really so sure about what's going on around here, but I guess it's okay.
You know, here's a picture. Here's where he lives. This is, you know, he's half a child, half a man, you know, kind of Pee Wee Herman, a little bit of Stan Laurel, a little bit of Jerry Lewis, a little bit of Munchkin. And,
You know, it's not really a kid voice like a Charlie Brown realistic kid voice, but it's not really an adult either.
You know, if the character has really big buck teeth, you may do it differently, or if they have a very, you know, big tongue and they lisp a lot, you know, if there's a lot of spit involved in the picture, then you may do something different. If you sound like you have a large chest, they will animate you with a very large chest.
You know, say that there's a character, and you know, he's a deep voice character, and they want you know, like a giant. He's a giant, and this is they want him like this, but you know, they want to keep him bright, and they want to they want to have him very intelligent. So you know, he's this kind of guy, and you know, or maybe he's got some tusks or something like that. You know, so we can put that in there, or maybe he's not that bright, so maybe he will talk like this a little bit.
That's the kind of thing you're able to do with a character.
You ready, man? Yeah, dude. Put your pants on. Okay.
On Futurama, we didn't know what Bender the robot should sound like. A robot. What do you know? Because the tendency, and what most people did when they came in, I am Bender, I talk like a robot. You know, there was all that and variations of that.
I auditioned for Bender. I just played him like a construction worker.
Let me just bend that for you.
We were really going through a lot of people, and then somebody said, hey, Dave, you sound kind of like a robot. Maybe you should do the part. I chose to take that as a compliment.
So he tried out, no good. He agreed, no good. And then John DiMaggio came in, and John did this, you know, kind of drunk, aggressive, belligerent, but not scary, just kind of over the top, you know, just, guy had one too many, right? And that was it. It just made us laugh so much.
Slim Pickens.
What in the hell in the wide, wide world of sports is going on?
The drunk at the end of every bar.
Just, if you even know why people, I want to tell you something.
And then there was this guy, a friend of mine, Ralph Colombino, from college, did a Charlie the Sausage Lover.
Sausages, you got all kinds of sausages. You got dry sausages, you got sweet sausages, you got wet sausages, you got hot sausages.
So you put those three in a blender and you get Bender.
You know, let me do this. Yeah, okay, sure. Thanks to you, I went on a soul-searching journey. I hate those. Now give up the free will. Now hand it over. You want it? Come and get it. Why, you lousy!
In my mind, that's the voice that Bender should have had and always would, but we didn't know. We didn't know. So John nailed the character and actually pushed the character in that direction.
Whap.
You know, Billy West and Jim Cummings and Jeff Bennett, I always say they have this Rolodex in their head and they just flip through it and it's like, okay, like by decade, you know, 40s weird accent or whatever, and just, you know, they have all these references.
Dr. Zoidberg, who, when they showed me the drawings, he had all this cool meat hanging off his mouth. And I thought, well, he's got to be impaired somehow. And I thought, what marble-mouthed peripheral actors were there in history? And I put two together. One was a vaudevillian named George Jessel, and he had a marble mouth, like this. But then there was also an actor named Lou Jacoby who came out of Yiddish theater, and he was a marble mouth, too. To have this voice who was just Dr. Zoidberg, like, young lady, bring me a sandwich from the dumpster, and leave the maggots on it.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
Hooey boy?
We come from radio, stand-up, improv, the stage, and music.
You have to have an ear. You have to hear yourself in your head. You have to have command of your instrument.
This is kind of like conducting music. You know, I've got my score here, and I've got the actors there, and you go boom, and the band starts playing. A musical ear is invaluable to you in animated work.
The music part of it helps you, because every character has a rhythm. Like if you're thinking of Yogi Bear, it's like music. It was like na 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 na.
There's a certain musicality if I kind of go all over the place. It's interesting. Although I'm speaking right now and I'm going up on my questions, that's kind of the nature of this guy. Like, I don't know, should I really do it? You know, but if I stay on one particular spot, I'm all of a sudden singing a note, you know? And I think that musicality is sort of part and parcel about what voice actors do.
The characters that I do, they each have their own kind of, they have their own rhythm, their own kind of beat board, their own kind of, I mean, you know, Nelson Muntz, that's pretty rough. Kind of maybe akin Nelson Muntz to, And the thing about huckleberries is, once you've had fresh, you'll never go back to canned. It's forceful, right? And then you get a rough rhythm, and his is sort of lilting, right? And kind of lifting. And you could sort of, if you were to sort of graph it out in the hospital, you know how you have a heart rate thing? Ralph's would be all kind of wavy and light, and Nelson's would be...
There's a cadence, and there's an intonation and a rhythm to characters, and I think that's the music in them.
The bad guy walks into the saloon or whatever, you'll notice the theme from the movie shifts into a minor key. And bad guys have minor keys.
A lot of us are musicians. Some of us are singers. Some of us can play beautiful piano like this. I unfortunately am not one of those guys.
I've heard directors trying to tell, actors how to do a line, and they'll say, no, Mike, you don't understand. Okay, now musically, that's ba 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 ba. Okay, and the guy will go, no, Mike, you don't understand. And it's like, no, Mike, you don't understand. And if you're musical, you give them what they want that much quicker. It also just enables you, when you're taking apart like an impression, you can do it musically. Like you think, like, guys, if you're doing walking, the first thing you gotta do is think of like where he sits in a scale. And that's like, that's the note. So you got that. Then you start putting music in. And it's like on the ends of the words. You go down, see it like this. And you get fun. You go up. And it's like notes on a staff. You know what I'm saying?
And I see that he's taking his time. He's pausing, yes. And ending up on minor notes, sometimes no punctuation.
Mary had a little lamb.
Wow! He said, suspiciously.
I like my James Gandolfini. He's one of my favorites because The Sopranos was a good show,
Marlon Brando is playing. What do you think of that? What do you think you're up at, Queens?
Well, I told the Wizard of Oz, I want to go home. I want to go home. Honey, I'm Uncle Henry. I'm frightened.
Rosie Perez.
You should have said I love you infinity plus infinity. Sometimes when you win, you actually lose.
Singing George Bush. This land is your land. This land is my land. I'm a Texas tiger. You're a liberal wiener.
Even if you don't really do the impression well, you're still doing a character. You're still doing, you know, your version of that character.
I was reading that Family Guy script and going to go in on that audition. I was like, man, this is such a good script. How am I going to get this part? What if it sounded like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs? And they were like, what does that even mean? And so I did all the lines like that. Can I interest you in a 16-piece, maybe with some extra honey? Would you like a Pepsi? And it started there. And so I did all the lines like that. And it just sounded so weird that I think they liked it.
Initially, this was basically a Phil Hartman impression. So yeah, it's a great skill to have because you can then take that voice and twist it or put a different accent on it or do the bad impression of it, and it might even be funnier, you know. I think Hank Azaria said that, you know, he's just doing bad impressions. They're wonderful voices. He's amazing, you know, and they fit the characters so perfectly. But, you know, they're basically kind of a little off impressions.
Lou the Cop, for example, is pretty bad Stallone, pretty lazy Stallone.
Chief Wiggum is sort of almost kind of Edward G. Robinson-ish.
Or anyway, the Mel Blanc imitation of Edward G. Robinson.
Mo is a bad version of Al Pacino.
So yeah, but you know, they're imitations to me, but they come out as character voices.
Yeah, I was just thinking what a good parking job I did with it. Yeah, hey, that is nice. Hey, Lou, check out that park job in 7A.
Ooh, that's sweet.
And there's always that fun game of going, who is that? Who is that? Or listening to commercials and hearing a voice and going, I know who that is.
You're on SpongeBob? I love that. I love the fact that they don't know.
Look, Mr. Krabs, what do you mean you don't know?
I love, like, the look in the little kids' eyes when they find out and they say, you know, can you do the voice, which happens nearly every day. And it's sort of the way their eyes pop.
Bobby kind of sounds like this, Larry. Are you a Jewish fellow? That's so interesting.
I do love the fact that Nancy Cartwright is a woman, and she plays Bart Simpson, and it freaks kids out.
Kids will say to me, do Bart, and if it's a little guy, I'll say, close your eyes, because, come on, I'm a chick. I don't have 9 spikes on the top of my head. I'm certainly not 10 years old, but, you know, for a little kid, close your eyes. Hi, I'm Bart Simpson. What's happening, man? So all you hear, all you need, really, is the sound, right? I think it's great.
On camera, I'm pretty much limited to, you know, what you see here. I mean, yeah, you could put me in old age makeup, and I could play an older version of myself. But you can't put me in young makeup and make me, you know, 10 years old again. But I can play 10, you know, in a cartoon. I could easily do that. I could play, you know, an older version of myself. You know, I could play a female if I wanted to.
Doing a show like American Dad, we have such enormous casts every single week, and because we can't, you know, be using 20 or 30 actors, we have to fill in and do a lot of different characters. So I've gotten over the last 8 years to really be able to stretch my range and really get an opportunity to do things that I wouldn't normally have gotten to do.
Animation, I think now, for me, takes the place of stage. Because stage, I could do lots of different characters that I would never get cast on film. But it's like stretching. You know, you can stretch on stage and do, you know, very bizarre old men or young women or boys or whatever you want to do on stage. You can do the same thing in animation.
Everyone's kind of got a little bag of tricks and a little cart that they bring around with them, actually. At least that's how I look at it. You know, occasionally someone needs a... like a pig, but that can be... You can open up the chambers in your throat to make it larger. You can modify the column of air. You can just squinch it up there in all these just horrific kinds of ways.
What, you want a Jewish baby? Right? What do you want, Italian baby?
Hey, that worked well.
The dolphin. The dolphin-esque laugh.
I always loved Droopy. He was always a very fascinating character for me.
Isn't that rather fetching, Captain?
And yes, I have to do that. It hurts after 2 hours, but that's all.
Well, I can do him sort of like that, but it's a little easier if I take my jobs and go.
And then Jamie Thomason, the director at the time, he said, try one. And I remember laughing, going, well, I'll try one.
Well, it does sound a little better with just one, and it's not too much that way. Not too bubbly, and yet just bubbly enough.
Aye, aye, Captain. Set her down, boys.
Dawes also talked about physical. When he would do Yogi Bear, he would stick his chest out. And that's how he did it, hey? What I teach my students is if you physically play the character, the voice will follow.
When I do Joseph, my fingers always go out. And the sound guys, you can hear this because there's this noise of my fingers, and I never do this in my daily life. A lot of it comes out of, Bobby, I'm not, and it just happens. And when we do Akbar on Robot Chicken, it is this. It's because, Akbar's always, there's a trap, and he's doing this.
I remember with Rocco, to get into character, it might be, oh my, oh my.
So I'd literally put my hands together because that's how they animated it.
Oh my.
You don't necessarily have to cross your eyes, because nobody will see that, but for me, it helps to get into that real dumb kind of guy.
You're not separated from your voice. Your body does the work as well. You see them all doing, you're in the character. Your body can't help becoming the character, and you can't sit there and go, my voice is doing this.
It's like I see Doofenshmirtz up there, I record the voice, he comes out there, and as soon as the voice is attached to those drawings, that's just his voice to me. And the first time I saw a video of me doing it, my first thought literally was, oh, that's not what I pictured that guy looking like.
The upper decker, the pickle slicer, the stand and... Volition is our ability to choose what we are going to do, whereas evolution, that's got something to do with monkeys, I think.
To be, or not, the opposite. That is the question, folks.
They've got a dime a dozen people who can say, what's up, Doc? I taught a taw putty tat. That's all, folks. If you can do Shakespeare as Porky Pig or Sylvester the Cat and stay in character, you probably can handle the script for the movie.
I'm not trained in this, so forgive me.
All the world's a stage.
And all the men and women, merely players.
They have their exits and entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts.
His ex being 7 ages.
At first, baby infant, mewing and puking in the nurse's arms.
Doesn't sound good to me, folks.
And then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school.
And then the lover, sighing like furnace.
With a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow.
I don't know why he's talking to the eyebrows. It's a strange place to talk to you, but there you go.
Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard. Ooh, a bearded pard.
Jealous slaughter, sudden and quick and quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation in the cannon's mouth.
And then the justice in fair round belly with good capon lined.
With eyes severe and beard formal cut.
Good and full of wise saws and modernistices, yeah.
And so he plays his part. 6'8" shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon.
How would you like to slip into a slippered pantaloon?
Well, that's very naughty.
With spectacles on nose and pouch on side.
His youthful hose.
Well seen. A world too wide for his shrunk shank.
Oh, that's a small shank he's got there.
And his big, manly voice.
Turning again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound.
Last scene of all.
What? That ends this strange, eventful history.
His second childishness and mere oblivion. Son's teeth.
Sans eyes, sans taste.
Sans everything.
Scene. Where's my check?
The thing I love is when people find out that this, you know, SpongeBob and the lottery scratcher guy and the guy from the kids show that their 3-year-old watches and the guy saying side effects may include diarrhea are all the same guy. I freaking, that is, to me, that's the payback. They go, that's all you? That's all the same guy? You go, yeah. They go, you're like, where's Waldo, man? It's like incredible. You're everywhere yet nowhere, man.
It's really important in animation to not just have one voice. There are certainly people that can maintain careers with a kitsch voice or sound, but for the people that work a lot, it's because they're versatile. It's because they can change their voice. For the most part, people wouldn't guess that Bubbles is the same as Terrence from Foster's Home, because one is like a very high-pitched girl like this, and the other's a dude.
I'm not a chubby crybaby.
Ooh, that's even better! All the way in Malaysia.
But they're gonna pick people that, hey, can you throw in a cheerleader or a little boy or a little girl or an old lady? And you're just going to work more if you can bring another character to life.
Versatility is the name of the game. The more changes that you can make, the more nuances, the more characters that you can come up with, the better chances are you are getting cast.
Sign falling on Randy. Action.
Ow!
Sal, infuriated by this loud space noise.
Ah, quiet! I can't hear myself jackhammering.
Surprise, Dad.
You mean before the Y2K turns our computers and waffle irons against us?
I've played black guys. I've played transvestite prostitute robots. I've played women aliens. I've played so many different kinds of characters through voice acting. And it's so freeing, and it's so much fun, and I get to be broad, and I get to perform, I get to act, I get to live this out. On camera, playing a black guy, there's no way. There's no way.
I have a project called Off the Curb. It's with Mondo Media. It's a web show that the whole cartoon itself is improv, and it's four guys on a street corner of African-American descent talking about whatever subject they're talking about.
Frankenstein will whoop Dracula's ass.
Oh, hell no.
No, it's the truth.
That's ridiculous.
Bill, that is not ridiculous.
Here's why it's ridiculous. Only thing Frankenstein got from him, he got some metal boots in his neck where Dracula would normally bite him. But Dracula would suck Frankenstein dry.
Willie, that's bullshit, man. Frankenstein would come up on Dracula and punch him right in the mouth.
Gentlemen, I just need to correct you. It's not Frankenstein. That's Frankenstein's monster. The
shit.
monster's name is Tomas.
You can't suck the blood out of a man who already dead. That's right, it's green blood. Green blood! So that's how it started, and I thought about a year later I should get an all-star cast.
Why not get black people?
Why not get real black people?
Basically, that stuff is animated jazz.
Nobody's louder than John DiMaggio. The policemen are having the sirens ripped out of the car and just replaced with John DiMaggio saying, "Slow down!" He plays a black character in this thing that we're doing. And like, there are people I'd love to be mad with, like, man, don't do no black character. You're insulting. But him, it's like, respect. So I've gone out and gotten him several black girlfriends just off the power of his throat alone. He has what they call an NT, a Negro throat in the business. Very Negro throated.
He's the blackest white guy I know.
Hey, listen, for one thing, I'm gonna tell you right now, white people with their dogs and their yoga, man, frustrating. That's all I gotta say, it's frustrating. White people are frustrating.
Coming out to Hollywood, you're like, you know what? No, you're not gonna do anything and everything. Not all of it is for you. But with animation, you can become anything and everything you want.
Now, I love animation. I love animation because in the world of animation, you can be anything you want to be. If you're a fat woman, you could play a skinny princess. If you're a short, wimpy guy, you could play a tall gladiator. If you're a white man, you could play an Arabian prince. And if you're a black man, you could play a donkey or a zebra. And if you're a Filipino-Canadian, you could play Chris Rock.
I don't know which staunchy guys you've had in here that said it's difficult. I'd like to punch them all in the throat for saying such a thing. It's not. Anyone can do this immediately. Get in your car and drive to Los Angeles. Get here right now and get on the microphone. You'll make millions of dollars and have both white and Asian women.
You know, we spend 98% of our time doing the business of doing business, like tracking down the opportunities, doing the auditions, sending in the MP3s, blah, blah, blah. But the 2% of the time we get to actually play and have fun, that's why I do it.
The hardships of the voiceover business, if you're talent, number one is getting an agent. A good agent is somebody who is going to get out and try to get your name and your voice track around so people pay attention to you.
Hey, Don Pitts, just calling in to see how Casey's doing. He was my first agent. You know, he'd be, okay, here's a spot for Target, Jeff, and he'd have a little thing, and he'd have the timer, and he'd say, and you've got 60 seconds, and go! You know, so all my readings were like, at Target, you have, you know.
When we cast a series, our casting director goes to the agents and asks them to submit their clients. And that's how, that is how it works.
Primarily, my job is to find the talent and to narrow it down to the top choices of people that I feel would be best for a part, pass them on to my showrunner, my creator, my director, whoever is making those final choices, and then work with them to get the best people in the booth.
We do tons and tons and tons of auditions. I remember back when we were at Disney, we had to do a PowerPoint presentation, and we calculated that, you know, we did somewhere in the neighborhood of, you know, 5,000 to 15,000 auditions a year. And I'd been there at the time for over a decade. I'm not a math major, but that's a lot of auditions.
Auditions are our chance to shine and to really show the writers and directors and producers we're the right person for the job. The directors bring voice actors in because they know they'll perform and they'll do it right on the spot.
You got to be able to do it or you'll get the heave-ho. The union standard is a 4-hour session. It's either 9 to 1 or 2 to 6. And they've also got to record an 11-minute episode or a 22-minute episode, plus a whole bunch of ADR from an episode that you did a couple weeks ago, and then the animation came back on this other episode, and some of the lip assignments aren't right. We had to change the lines, and these jokes weren't clear, so we rewrote some of these. So, you know, and that's all in a 4-hour session.
You don't really have a job. So you could be going to Cartoon Network all the time, and you feel like you have a job, you feel like you're involved there, but you actually don't work at Cartoon Network. You were hired for an hour, like, every other week, for 8 weeks, and then maybe you'll be able to go back there, but it's kind of a very tenuous thing. You know, it's this vagabond kind of lifestyle, and you go in and, you know, you hang your shingle in different little places, and then it's time to be moving on.
CD complete, Skipper.
Excellente, Kowalski. Now all we have to do is blow up your hard drive.
Yes, of course. What?
Just like to say that today is the last day of Penguins Record. So that's what we're shooting today. And it's a very sad day, but it'll be a very funny day. So that's that.
All right, we're gonna look at Q1. This is show 327. Here we go.
Somebody, they launched.
It's got everything. You've got laughs, you got villains, you've got people just having a good time, cracking each other up. That's what we have to get as well, as like the behind the scenes, because usually the show is the show behind the show.
I get to sit here and watch these guys goof off.
Explode! Excellent. And here it comes, Q39. Good.
That's good.
You hold on.
See you at the pool party.
There's a bunch of us that literally say we get fired after every job. And that sort of mentality to live by on your day-to-day thing when you've got bills to pay, that fear and that terror that comes with that, I think sort of subsides when you're so grateful every day for when that job does come. And I didn't start doing voiceover full-time until I was 40 years old. Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, that became a huge benchmark. It was right around that time that recorded. And none of us really knew how big that thing was going to be. And as it turns out, that was one of the biggest things that ever happened in my career. And fans pointed out to me that that was the first anime that was their gateway into that whole genre.
With foreign dubbing or anime shows like Pokemon, Naruto, it's already been completely created, animated, released somewhere overseas. You go into a studio by yourself and you sync it up to the picture. So they will take each sentence line by line and you will sync it to fit the lip flaps of the pre-existing picture.
You literally watch TV and talk at the TV all day, and hopefully you've got good writers, and on that fourth imaginary beep, you try and bring this character to life. You try and lift it off the page with the constraints of time, because it's already been animated, the flaps are already there, and you want to try and make it sound as natural as possible, so it's not what is, you have destroyed my village kind of a thing. I never really knew this world existed until, I mean, I grew up watching Speed Racer and everything, but I don't know, it's weird. You never sort of make that connection with, oh, I can do this for a living? That's pretty awesome.
People knew I was a fan geek way before George Lucas's movies. But to me, you use your imagination, whether you're playing Robin Hood or you're playing Zorro or Superman, whatever it is. It's not that different. It really isn't. With voiceover, I'm just telling you, I said, where has this been all my life? Because it's the ultimate kind of fun job to do.
This iteration of Star Wars Clone Wars came out, not only was the artwork tremendous, not only was the writing outstanding, not only was the voice work great, but it was also in a world that had evolved from, you know, my little 17-year-old boner life to this really super sophisticated comment about what's been going on and what could go on and how it should go on. I mean, it was kind of outstanding, and yet had this nostalgic feel.
Currently, I'm the voice of the clones on Star Wars: The Clone Wars. The trick and the fun of it is to flavor them a little bit differently each time we do them. To make one a little bit younger, to make one a little bit older, to make one, you know, with a little bit more swagger to them, so they all sound a little bit different. That's the fun acting part. The hard part is just making it straight ahead, honest, real.
He'll strike a crippling blow to the Republic. Something has to be done. We can't risk the possibility that he might escape. As long as Krell's alive, he is a threat to every one of us. I agree.
George Lucas and Dave Filoni have said, look, this character, Alec Guinness, will never be Obi-Wan Kenobi again. Ewan McGregor will never be Obi-Wan Kenobi again. You're the representation of Obi-Wan Kenobi, so make it your own. So I take a little, these aren't the droids you're looking for, a little, I have a bad feeling about it, and I combine them into my own, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Prepare yourself. The real fight is about to begin.
With the Force, all things are possible, yes.
Find a way. We shall.
We all grew up Star Wars fans. We know these characters like the back of our hands. You know, Dave is the same way. Dave was a fan before he was an employee.
It's my job to get the best out of them, to get their greatest performance, to get their greatest part, what makes them creative, into the episodes. And you can't disturb them while they're being part of that creative process.
Just like there's an actor for every role, there's a director for every project.
We usually start out with a table read where we just hear the script for the first time, and I'm beginning to tune in on what the different actors are doing and making notes about what we might fix or adapt. Come in with a plan, right or wrong, and if it's wrong, you'll fix it, and if it's right, you're a hero.
Gordon Hunt was, like the godfather of all of us. And this was passed on, by the way, to Ginny McSwain, to Andrea Romano, who followed in his footsteps. This was the core team of individuals who sort of set a precedent.
Gordon Hunt was the voice director at Hanna-Barbera for many, many years. And so it was just a real actor's director. And because of the nature of the way we make cartoons, which is we record the voices first and then animate to that, you affect the entire process if you don't get a good performance from the actors.
Being from the theater, I was envisioning the characters as I might cast them for a play, rather than just looking down at the page and listening to the voices coming in. So I think inadvertently, that's how we came on that style.
Gordon was really an actor's director, and so he instilled in me the fact that these people on the other side of the glass are actors. They're not mimics, they're not puppets, they're actors.
It's almost like their voice is their movie star face, and that's what they're really bringing to the party.
Just being on the other side of that glass, I know what it feels like, so I'm really sensitive to making people feel comfortable and getting them loose enough that we can just play around. Actors love to play, especially voiceover actors. You just want to, like, play. But I will credit Andrea Romano for essentially teaching me how to voiceover direct. She just has a very casual, easy, keep it going, only get as much as you need, playful style. And I've adopted that when I started directing people.
I probably use as many different styles of directing as I can, and I try to deal with every specific series differently because, you know, I'll direct a Batman episode and then go to a SpongeBob episode, and they couldn't be more different as far as the energy and what we're doing. They all still have to be honest and real and genuine, and so I always deal from that point of view.
To be a good voice director, you do your research on the story. You have to know the story you want to tell. To be able to give direction without line readings, like saying, "Oh, say it like this," and I'm walking through the door. I mean, because it's not my performance anymore. It's a director's performance.
So you're on a boat, and and they're doing the character for you. They're doing the character for you. They're in this story going, so you're in a boat, and you're swimming along, and you say, and I peter out at that point. I'm like, hi there.
They sense whether the actor will be happy with a line reading or won't be. I don't mind line readings at all.
I will do anything to get a performance. I will do anything, and have, almost.
Charlie's the fastest director ever. He'll give you a line reading because it's the best direction. He is an exception to the rule. Can we show Charlie right now?
Charlie, I love you.
This is so spontaneous, and part of what makes the work so thrilling is not squashing the energy and keeping the actors engaged and excited and spontaneous and still being able to balance what's being said in the room, being able to deliver it as quickly as possible, as clearly as possible, and without having anybody feel like they're being dishonored.
And with computers now, anybody can sit at home and make a little animated piece. And you can get that out there and people can see it. And so many folks are getting, the invite either to come and create or to do, a show of that little bit that they created on the internet, some little YouTube film. And that's how they're getting word out. That's really great.
Yeah. As far as getting your work out there to be seen by industry professionals, I think the game has totally changed. At one point, it was friends of friends, and that was you could only get your foot in the door if you knew someone else. But now, when I'm searching for talent, I'll go on the internet.
Technically, as a guy who has his own podcast and a producer side of things, it's great because I take my laptop or my iPad and a plug-in USB mic, and I go to Johnny D's house and we sit down. Boom! Here's the mic. Get a drink of water, and we just talk about stuff.
I am actually quite astonished at who I was lucky enough to find for my podcast this week.
That's right.
Tracy.
Tracy Morgan.
Genius.
That's what they told me I had in the Bronx. I had genius in my mouth.
Thanks. I got you going on it. Nice.
So now I got, 6,000 or 7,000 people that listen to it every day. Costs them nothing. Costs me nothing to produce except my time. And I'm literally talking to people who are all my personal friends.
Who's your friend?
You're my friend, and you're my friend.
Thank you. That's why
I love this guy.
I'm a moron!
Don't worry. I've got a plan that's gonna solve this biz. Homies help homies. Always.
I'm ready to hear your plan, homie.
I do a lot of on-camera gigs where everyone does this shtick and the B-roll about how much they love each other. It's such a bullshit. The truth is, in voiceovers, you really do love each other. I mean, they're just good people. And I don't know if it's because you're not seen and you don't get the acclaim. I don't know if that's the component that makes everyone so kind, but they really are good people. This is one of the rare mediums where people do refer you for jobs. Most of the jobs I get are references from other voiceover actors. That never happens. Or you don't get a job and you say, who would be good for this? Not me, but, Nika Futterman would be better, or so-and-so would be better. That never happens, but it happens here.
Jim, I challenge you to a Tyson fight. It'll be indubitably good. In a sense, what we have here is a failure to exacerbate. Don't laugh at me or I crush you like a hostess Twinkie. I'm gonna get truly righteous and put hurts on him that will show up in his grandchildren. I think Jim Tyson's a lot better than mine.
He's amazing. He's like the everyman. He's all over the place. And you know what? He's so talented, you can't even stand it.
Jim Cummings, I know I forfeit. I got to forfeit because Jim would win, I think.
I think the camaraderie stems from the fact that no one ever sees our faces.
In voiceover, you find a lot of people have a little bit less of an ego because if you love what you're doing, you don't need that validation.
We grew up on these cartoons. We think this can be an art form as well as entertainment. And the future of animation and voiceover has expanded into so many realms. Now it's all over. There's Adult Swim. There's Flash animation with South Park where it's 2 guys doing everything. Or there's video games where it's 17 guys from the Bay Area, you know, screaming their guts out, making these characters that people are going to play for 9 hours straight.
The big thing about the progression in voiceovers is video games.
But at last, the whole of Azeroth will break.
The actors play a very crucial role in video games, especially with casting and recording, because we will spend a lot of time on the front end. We'll have lots of brainstorming meetings, we'll look at lots of concept art, where we do all this extensive work. We work on our story, we do everything we possibly can. And then we come to the booth with our idea and knowing what we want. And then this magical equation walks through the door, and that's the actor.
Right now, video games is really dominating entertainment in general.
It does take a huge group of people to create these, probably to a certain degree, maybe more than some movies. If you've ever seen the making of Avatar, that's how games are made.
I can't know the whole picture doing a video game. I mean, I can't know the whole storyline. It's impossible for you to, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, well, how am I gonna explain this?
The universes are just so huge, and the amount of information that they need to record is so massive because there are so many variables in the course of gameplay.
Go, go, go! A lot of people might know that one. Get down! Frag out! Grenade! That's me. You can't teach that. You can only hope to duplicate it.
There's been an evolution in video games of the visuals. You know, the visuals were very primitive in the beginning, and they're getting better and better and better, especially as we get more mocap and stuff. The acting has evolved as the visuals have evolved, and we're allowed to be much, much more true.
You know, thousands of lines, you know, session after session.
Gandalf is, you know, he went to the north, he went to the south, he went to the northeast, he went to the southwest, he went, you know, you have to do every freaking possibility.
You'll spend 4 hours there with scripts that big, screaming your guts out. Well, we want to scream when you're bleeding. We want to scream when you're hot. We want to scream when you're sad.
Give us now a 10-second fall. Okay, a 20-second fall. Okay, now you've been shot. Okay, now your leg's been hacked off and somebody's shoving it down your throat.
We have pages and pages of reactions. I mean, when you're going through the game and you're playing and you hear this, like you're recording every single one of those things. You'll have short hit reaction, medium hit reaction, long hit reaction, short taking damage act. You know, so we actually go down and for pages.
I knew you'd make it, Marcus.
Normally, you try and get your video games scheduled at the end of the week because there's so much to do within a video game, voiceover-wise, that you'll need the weekend to recover.
So remember, this is where you're gonna just totally peak at this point. You just lost Dom.
You're done? Everywhere you go, everything you do, it's always nothing but death, pain, and miseries. I just lost my brother. You hear that? My brother. You and your tower can go to hell.
Nice. Let's try one where you peak it at the right at the end. Got it. 1 second.
It's always nothing but death, pain, and miseries. I just lost my brother, all right? You hear that? My brother. You and your tower and all the emulsion can go to hell. Literally, I've had friends of mine who've done that stuff and come out of there going, oh my gosh, that was impossible. I don't know how I'm gonna work tomorrow.
The
Batman sound when I first started producing it. And I just scrunched down on my vocal cords and I made this sound that was really sexy and really tough and really great. Well, after a few weeks of that, my voice was going. I thought, wow, this is a problem. So I had to figure out a way to create the same sound but supporting it, which is what you do on stage. But I hadn't thought it would really be an issue because there wasn't any projecting involved. So you do have to keep your voice in shape.
You need New York, you need New York, you need New York. And what did you do to die today? A minute or two to do a thing that's distinctly hard to say, but harder still to do. If it beat it to do, a quarter to do, the rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, and the dragons will come when they sound the drum at a minute or two to do today, and a minute or two to do. Okay.
I sing. I sing on the way to work and I sing on the way home from work. If you warm up properly, you're not going to get hurt. And if you warm down properly, you're not going to get hurt.
It is an instrument, so just like anything, you want to keep it warmed up and have your session when your voice isn't too tired, because you can't curl the heaviest weights. If your muscles fatigued, the same with your voice. You can't go to a football game and scream and then expect to get behind a microphone and have your instrument work for you.
I've known guys with bleeding vocal cords because of the work they've had to do. Or guys that have lost their voice and weren't supposed to talk for a month.
If I've injured my throat, if I've overworked my voice, there's something called Entertainer Secret. It's just an herbal thing. You spray, you breathe, it feels good.
Alkalol. Not alcohol, alkalol. It's been around since the late 1800s. It's a throat rinse.
Well, I have at least half a bottle of whiskey every night, 2 cigars, and a pack of cigarettes.
I see the words blood-curdling scream in front of me 5 times a day, for real, on a good day, sometimes 20 times a day, okay? And when they say blood-curdling scream, that's what they want. I've figured out a way to yell that isn't as strenuous as it seems, and it's all about working the mic, you know? It's like, as opposed to, you know, if I yell, I'm like, ah! It sounds like it's really loud, but it's not. I'm kind of containing it. And it's the same with, like, movie trailers, when I do movie trailers and you're doing that whole, you know, rated R, coming to a theater near you. It's like, it doesn't sound that big, but when you're on a mic, it sounds huge.
There's nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust your picture. We are controlling the transmission.
This is my voice on TV.
Dad, you're ruining the mood. There's a certain distance that you want to be, and if you're too close, it's going to be, but there's an awareness of what that mic can pick up. And I can learn sensitivities to that, so I can play around with my voice a little bit more, get more out of it.
If I go, you see how that moves? It hits the microphone really hard. That's called a pee-pop. If you're recording and you get a pee-pop, take a pencil or your finger, it splits it, and it makes the air go that way instead of that way.
Hit it, Dizzy! Omega 2 is online. We're pinned down near the museum. Request evac. Omega 2 is online. We're pinned down near the museum. Request evac.
Each of us have our own particular bits. Some riff on particular things that are funny. I mean, like I like to. It's you can always put a cricket in somewhere and it seems funny.
Just did that with album.
Fred Tatasciore is really good at that too.
Yeah.
It's like
they love doing that kind of stuff.
Sometimes when I say, your speaker. Sorry, man.
That's when I just take them off. Then when they're actually trying to perform, just hit the button.
Voiceover acting is the best kept secret in Hollywood. That's now sort of starting to get out there. It's great. It's a great gig, and people are onto it. You know, for a while people didn't really know that it was such a big industry out there, but now the competition is getting tough, and more people are going up for those jobs.
I think it should definitely be more about talent and skill. I mean, I think that the person should obviously bring something to the piece. I've relied several times on, maybe they'll know my name and they'll just hire me because I've been too lazy to do a great job in there, and that doesn't really work.
I understand that in the selling of the thing they're trying to do, they want the powers that be always want celebrities. But the fact is, celebrities can be good, can be bad. But when you're doing something as fast-paced as the animation that we do for Futurama and for Simpsons, just slowing down enough to say a celebrity's name. Oh my gosh, it's so-and-so. Slows things down. Generally, these days, if we have a celebrity, we try to have them play a character. At least that's my preference. And you know, I'd rather work with the regular voice actors myself.
Somewhere or everywhere, there's a 19-year-old firebrand. They're sitting there going, wait a minute, I want to do what Rob Paulson does. I want to do what Jimmy Cummings does. And it's like, you mean I have to go be a celebrity first and maybe win a few Oscars or Emmys, and then they'll let me audition for a cartoon? You know, so it seems weird to me.
I have seen what it's like. You know, I've hung out with the absolute pinnacle of, you know, somebody who's famous pretty much every square inch of this planet. Hey, there it is. There's Tom right there. Hi, I'm Tom Hanks. I've traveled with Tom and stuff like that, and I see the crap that he goes through. And he's incredibly gracious about it. I mean, it's mind-blowing. But not being able to go to 3rd Street Promenade without getting mobbed, that's,
I think at times these people regard voice work as kind of like being Clark Kent. It's like, you don't know that I'm really Scooby-Doo. You don't know that I'm really Superman. You have that little thing tucked away. You can have that little confidence, and you can bring it out if you need to.
When you step into that booth and you activate these superpowers that you may have, which could be acting, it could be, you know, making funny sounds, or it could be dialects, it could be singing, but suddenly you're transformed into this super being that, that nobody knows. It's this secret superhero life. And then once you're done, you know, doing your show, saving the world in the show, then you go home. You step out of the booth and you put back on your Clark Kent glasses and you go back to your normal existence. It's pretty cool.
It's really nice to be, to just be out amongst and just be anonymous, because you really are part of the world.
Shut up! Stop talking, puny man!
Voiceover people are, for the most part, different people because we're people that like to be anonymous. And so it isn't about ego. And it maybe for some people that kind of sounds like BS, but like I really mean it. I really mean that it's about a bunch of people who are really psyched that we get paid to have fun.
I love it because I have friends that are, you know, I have a lot of friends that are recognizable, so I'm really cool. No, but you know, we can't go to Disneyland. Like I was like, hey, do you want to go to Disneyland with our kids? And they're like, I can't really go to Disneyland. And it's like, oh yeah, that sucks. Disneyland is awesome.
So I went to Florida where my mom is and said, I'm going to take you to Disney World. And this little boy's standing there, and he's wearing an Animaniacs shirt, right? And I go, yeah, I like him too. I said, it's funny that you have that shirt because, I do the voice, right? And he goes, what? What do you mean? And I go, I do the voice of Wacko, right? And he goes, so what? So do I. For real. And I go, oh, no. I don't mean like for fun. I mean, I do it on the show, right? And he goes, no, you don't. And I go, hey, wait a minute. I go, look at this. And I had this card at the time that had me and Wacko, because it was my first series. I was very excited. I had me and Wacko. And I go, look at that, huh? And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, you got a picture of the characters. So obviously, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. And I'm like, now I want to kill him, right? And I go, what will it take for me to convince you? He goes, well, let me hear you do it, right? And dude, I never get nervous about anything. I was so nervous now because this little bastard, and I'm like, whoa, okay. And I go, boy, sure is great to be here at Disney World. Happy Thanksgiving, right? And he looks up at me and he goes, I do it way better than that.
I live in New York, and after the attacks on 9/11, we were getting all these, hundreds of meals ready. And this one guy, in the middle of the night, like 3 nights into this, he goes, so my day job is I'm an architect. He says, what's your day job? I said, well, I do voices mostly. He went, I knew it. He said, you're the guy who does Batman. You're that Kevin Conroy. So he goes into this dining hall, and this is, the first week after the attack, and there'd been like just this somber sadness. And you hear him go, guys, you're not gonna believe who's been cooking your dinners. It's Batman. There's this long silence, and you hear, bullshit, from the back of the place. And he said, then someone else says, make him prove it. So I thought, oh, this is good. So I'm in the back kitchen, and I do from the back kitchen, I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman. There's this long pause, and then you hear from the back of the place, holy that is Batman. And suddenly people were laughing. And the architect who had recognized me said, what's it feel like to be Santa Claus? I said, because that's what just happened here.
I used to think I needed to have that head snapping as I walked into a restaurant. It's him. It's the guy from that show. It just isn't that important because it isn't real. I'll never see those people again. And when I come to something like Comic-Con, with the place is loaded with people who are into the work, know what we do, know what we look like, and it's like getting to turn off and on that fame thing that my famous pals can't turn off during the rest of the years.
I say it here and it goes out there. You don't know how many people are actually watching at any given moment, and to see that, at least a little bit of that at Comic-Con and all the people who truly are inspired. And you go to Comic-Con, you realize you're doing something, and these are people, they're grown-ups, they're people that you grew up with laughing as well as, 5-year-olds. And it makes it really special.
If we go down to the comic book store today, we'll get free comics from everybody, and then I'll have 6 comics instead of 7.
Well, I've been going to Comic-Con. This will be my 16th year. Like, me and Comic-Con are old friends. But Comic-Con is like the place where nerds commune in their natural habitat without fear of exterior persecution. Comic-Con isn't just this grassroots marketing opportunity. It is a place where people who live and breathe and bleed for this stuff go to be passionate with one another.
The cons are great. It's like I'm a Beatle. It's nuts. This is gonna be fun. All right, big day, Comic-Con.
I should have put some of that eye stuff on my face.
I have to get my box lunch.
Going to San Diego Comic-Con or Dragon Con in Atlanta or any of these places, it's like a company picnic. You see people you work with all the time. It's really fun.
Anything you're a rabid fan of is cool, man. And it's like, I think that the Comic-Con thing did something really great because it gave these people who are so into comics and cartoons and fantasy and anime and all these mediums, it's like it gave them a place to go.
Yeah, conventions are a trip. It's really been amazing to see the fans.
Isn't that ridiculous? These people are that sick. They're super fans.
We do a signing and we get to interact with the kids and fans, that's always great.
And we'll put the date so we all know where we are.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
It's a chance for somebody who you really like something, and you get to actually meet the people who do it.
It's a place where fans can completely be themselves, where they can live out their fantasy with people that are of like mind. Good for them.
Oh, my dog, I'm dyslexic.
These people know who we are, and it's really lovely. We're treated like rock stars, and these characters have such a profound effect on many people's lives. And that's a very special thing to be part of.
It's also cool to meet all the people who actually want to see you. That's fun. I like doing panels and stuff.
I love doing Comic-Cons and comic book shows where they are gracious enough to have voice people come and talk about the craft. There's so many people that light up that are interested in it, and I've been blown away.
Still better than your cookie.
What? Hey! What's wrong with my cookie? The best part, and it's going to sound so cheesy, but it's the truth, is you meet the fans and you go, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being into it. I'm glad you like that. It's worth doing and it's fun. If you can get through the sea of people.
Comic-Con, you walk around like a baby because you can't move faster than a baby can, and you're just waddling, and everyone's bumper to bumper. That's why you can't. Everyone's just clustered together. Celebrities at Comic-Con, they escort them through these back alleyways throughout Comic. They escort them basically through the garbage area. It was just rad.
They sort of sneak you in the back, where the loading dock is. Lead you all these dark corridors.
Come on. I know. You gotta hustle, man. This is Comic-Con for me.
Voice of Jake the Dog, John DiMaggio.
I wanted to make this documentary because I wanted to honor these people. I wanted to show that my peers are really incredible. They're an incredibly talented bunch. I wanted to show those people. I wanted to show their face. I wanted to show them as champions of the industry.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You guys are the best.
No, I can't. Is this the Bible or Shakespeare?
I was Mr. Weed from A Family Guy. Peter, you're fired.
Only you could prevent forest fires.
I play a character called Granny Good, who's an androgynous creature.
Motor bartender. Apu, the cookie mart attendant. And police chief Wedham.
This isn't my home, actually. I just rented it. I didn't really rent it. I'm just hoping nobody shows up. Klaus, an American dad. Little fish in a bowl. Hello, Schwing Heil.
Foop on Fairly Odd Parents.
Hey, baby, this guy right here, Johnny Bravo. Who?
Ethan Tweedy, the one aboard this?
Grimlock, I know about the leader.
What's up, Doc?
Wolverine from Wolverine and the X-Men.
Kids will come up and ask you, can you do the voice?
Ooh, Mr. Krabs, what do you mean you don't know?
I don't do it for kids that come up and say,
Do it. Do the voice. Do it. Do it. You're Mr. Krabs. Do it.
Shockwave was a favorite of mine.
And I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?
Flame Princess on Adventure Time.
Ever I hear one of my Best Buy commercials come on, I'm immediately the first one to stand up and hush the whole room.
I do the voice of Batman for Warner Brothers for 20 years.
I am Nightwing. And you got my good side.
I do the voice of Tommy Pickles and Babe.
Emily Elizabeth on Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Neutron.
Bandit from Futurama. Oh, yeah. No, just screaming for 4 bloody hours.
Pluto, so I get paid to bark for a living.
I'm a very caring, soft-spoken Helia.
Dopey Smurf.
Yeah.
Worm guys, Men in Black.
Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go?
Stretch sort of sounds like this. Squeeze sort of sounds like that.
Neil is like, oh, hello, Meg, this, that, and the other thing.
The noise of Maggie's pacifier.
Daddy, I want to be a Powerpuff but think that I couldn't.
The teeth reminded me of the Blue Meanie from Yellow Submarine. Those teeth, those teeth, those teeth!
The best thing about voiceovers, when you're in this little thing and you see everybody in the control room going, you go, there, I just did my job.
Wacko and Animaniacs, that was one of the first big ones. And Roger Rabbit, that was even before Animaniacs.
I'm Ironhide in Transformers.
I talk like this. I couldn't say anything without rage.
Billy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I like pie.
King Julian of the Penguins of Madagascar.
I'm going to teach Kim Possible the power of Pequot Taishing Monkey Kung Fu.
Megatron. Is excellent, yes.
AKA Spider-Man and AKA Creepy Promo Guy.
SpongeBob and his snail Gary. Ow.
Lur, ruler of the planet Omicron Persei 8. Can I crash on your couch?
And Hermes, the Jamaican bureaucrat on Futurama.
Judy Jetson on the Jetsons.
Olivia on Family Guy.
Oh, Stewie, what are you doing?
Chester McBadbat, ace photographer and friends of Timmy Turner on Fairly Odd Parents.
It's a perfect day. It's in the mid-70s. Humidity is 60%.
I know all there is to know about computers. Just ask me anything. My name is Izzy. Yahoo!
I play Hotaru and also in Naruto. She's old. Based her on Pepperidge Farm, remembers?
You, quadruped, speaking the English?
Forgot what I was supposed to say. Is that what I do, George Bush? Can't remember the next line. What was it? Stay tuned. Coming up next. Member FDIC.
They hand you a sketch of the guy, and they can do that thing where it's like, well, I think he'd sound like this. I look at it, I'm like, I guess he sounds like me. Is that cool? Can he sound just like me? Because I can do that.
It's really hot. This is awesome.
Queen Chip Jurilac on Fairly Odd
parents.
I'm the chief, ain't no flea.
Dr. Rick Toffen from the Call of Duty Black Ops zombie levels. That's true, that's one there.
Holly McShane from the Kids from Room 402. She collects spoons.
Space Ghost Blue Falcon, Powdered Toast Man, Roger Ramjet. I can't remember.
Pinky from Pinky and the Brain.
Narv.
Yakko from Animaniacs.
Cleveland Jr. on the Cleveland Show.
Daddy, will you wipe me?
William Fontaine de la Tour d'Autrive.
SpongeBob SquarePants' grandma and Mrs. Lopart on Handy Manny.
I do the voice of Master Shake.
On Aqua Teen Hunger.
Boys!
Phil is kind of like this. You know, he's just a boy, he's a little guy, and he's a lot of fun.
Bubbles was. First I thought Mojo was a nice monkey, then I kicked in his face! Elmira from Tiny Toons!
Obi-Wan Kenobi on Star Wars The Clone Wars. Fred Flintstone, yabba dabba doo.
The Hulk? Or is Damon Baird in Gears of War?
Oh, piggy head. Your feet, they look like a boat's.
Hulda, she's German.
Little Susie and Phineas and Ferb.
Captain Quark from Ratchet and Clank. Hello, Space Cadets.
Lumpy Space Princess. Oh my glob!
Will you button me, Ren?
I play Uncle Ruckus on the Bone Doc.
It's The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Look at this face. I know that he is a... Oh, wait. I don't know why I launched into Aaron Neville right there.
So to you, I say, that's all, folks.
A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Stagger downstairs on that Saturday morning. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. Hear my old familiar friends coming out that speaker horn. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. From Bugs to Daffy, from Stimpy to Ram. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. Yeah, I seen them all once and I'd watch them all again. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. Out of a million faces, Lord, I made my choice. Well, hey there, friend, would you say that again? 'Cause I swear I know that voice. Coming home from school or as a late night snack. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. You know your cartoon buddies, man, they always got your back. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. Be it Dudley, Bender, Elmer, be it Moose or Squirrel. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. Bringing joy, bringing laughter to every boy and every girl. Hey brother, hey sister, hey, say it again. Out of a million faces, Lord, I made my choice. Well, hey there, friend, could you say that again? 'Cause I swear